friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard this afternoon as we get set up to discuss today's edition of Edmonton Oilers, talk. Really, there ain't much news. We're all eyes on the Vegas Golden Knights tomorrow night, and obviously with good measure, the 8-2 victory over top of the Anaheim Ducks gives us reason to believe that if the Oilers can come out with a victory against the Vegas Golden Knights, all may once again be well on its way back to the playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, that goes without saying. The Vegas Golden Knights are the toughest test this Edmonton Oilers team has had to date this season. And we're a quarter of the way through the year and we've got 15 points or something like that. Yeah, that's not gonna cut it. So, big thing is you win against the Vegas Golden Knights. That's going to get a whole bunch more people on board with this team. But you got to remember, it's the Vegas Golden Knights, and things have not looked good so far. So what I want to do today is take a look at things a quarter of the way through the season and kind of talk about where this team has to get to try and get to the NHL playoffs, if at all, because, of course, following 2 victories, then nothing more like the Edmonton Oilers flip on where the season's going. And we're talking about playoffs again because the picture in the West is an absolute terrible one, where even as the Seattle Kraken, who currently possess the second wildcard spot, are currently only on pace for 78 points. So, you know where I'm going with that? That's a tough sell if you're trying to say you're going to make the playoffs. So, let's discuss here. But before we get going there, friends, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button here on Dolynny TV. And without further ado, to graphic number 1, shall we? The quarter of the way through the Edmonton Oilers team statistics after a quarter of the season. The goals per game sit in middle of the pack at 3.3. So obviously the 8-goal victory over top Anaheim and the 5-goal victory over top of the Washington Capitals helps handily in that factor. And then the goals against, this coming down as well over the past 2 games to 3.70, 30th in the NHL. So what you're going to need to see, as we have talked about every single November for the past, I want to say 5-6 years now, is that the Edmonton Oilers have to get those numbers as close to par or above par, which would be the goals per game above 3.7 and that goals against per game below 3.7 for this season to have any hope, right? You look at that right there, 3.3 and 3.7. Now, obviously, you start holding your opponents to 2 or 1 goals per game and you start winning games by 4 or 5 goals over the next 2-3 weeks. Yeah, that does a lot. But, friends, we're talking about a team that is 6-13 technically on the season. This ain't a great hockey club at this moment. So unless they're turning a corner against Vegas on Tuesday, you're talking about a team that is going to struggle mightily to do that for multiple reasons, which we'll talk about in a moment. 25.7% on the power play. That is 6th in the NHL. Again, you got to think if the goals per game is going to change drastically, the power play is going to be a big key factor in that. The penalty kill percentage, though, slightly rebounding game through game over the past 5-6 games, up to 77.2, sitting at 20th percent. So 20th overall, actually, is what I was trying to say. So when it comes down to it, if the Oilers' penalty kill is anywhere in the top half of the NHL, they will be just fine. And obviously, I don't know what the exact numbers are to get to the top half of the NHL. I could look that up for you, get distracted for a key moment. But when you look at it here for the Edmonton Oilers and the team statistics, it's one of those stats that I figure is key, the penalty kill that being. And you look at it here from a team perspective. If I could find that, that would be great. The goals per game, top of the NHL, is 4.0 for the Vancouver Canucks. Goals against per game, whereas that goal differential's on here at plus 32 for the Canucks so far. Defensive goals allowed per game is 2.32. Top 10 is 2.9. So again, the Oilers have a long ways to go there. Penalty killing, top 10 is 84%. So you got to figure that you're talking about somewhere just over 80 to get to the top half of the league. So keep that in mind there. So for the Edmonton Oilers, still a lot of work to do. And here's the other side of the story, is you need some friends to pick it up. There's your Pacific Division standings as well right now, kind of going over where we're at. 30 points for Vegas, 29 for Los Angeles, 29 for Vancouver, 21 for Seattle. Like I said, they're not projecting to be much better than us this year. nor are Calgary, Anaheim, or San Jose throughout the first quarter of the season. So that second wildcard spot very much in doubt right now for any team in the bottom 9 positions in the Western Conference. Leon Draisaitl leads the Edmonton Oilers with 28 points. Again, though, you've only got 2 double-digit scores through the first 20, which seems unusual given that we've got Leon and Connor. But you've got Zach Hyman and Evander Kane doing those feats. And pretty much the top 5 guys in the Oilers lineup, which you would figure would be including Nugent Hopkins, although Kane's been very integral to the 5-on-5 scoring this season. You've got your 4 top power play guys all up there with, obviously, point per game performances. Nugent Hopkins is a bit off that. He's targeting about 76, 75 points per game right now this season. And then it drops drastically to Matthias Ekholm at 8 points. You've got Warren Foegele at 8, who's gone quiet and disappeared the past few weeks. Darnell Nurse worked his way up to 8 points last night. And then again, it drops drastically. These guys have played 20 games, remember. Cody Ceci with 4. Vinny Desharnais has all 3 of his assists, 3/4 of his points in the last 2 games, mind you. Ryan McLeod has 4 assists total in 20 games. You're paying him $2.1 million. And Derek Ryan has a grand total of 4 points through 20 games, being on pace for less than 20 points all season long. So what you need to see here in this next little bit, and especially against Vegas, and I mean, Vegas is one of those games you just got to win no matter what if you want to change the narrative. But what you want to see against Vegas is everybody's involved, every line chips in a goal, right? A 4-2, 4-1 victory over top of Vegas would feel really, really dang good, especially if Connor's line gets one, Draisaitl's line gets one, boom. Then you've got Hamlin's line getting one, McLeod's line getting one. Bingo, there you go, right? And that doesn't necessarily exclude the defenseman from scoring. That more or less each line has to be on the ice for a goal for, and everybody has to pick one line to be on for the goal against. So that's where I think this is how it lines up, is the Oilers have yet to prove anything until they play Vegas, but you win against Vegas and the narrative starts changing. But a quarter of the way through the season, this team still, despite 13 goals in the last 2 games and only giving up 2, has a long ways to go before they get anywhere here this season. So yeah, you know what? The rest of the NHL in the Western Conference has done you a favor and allowed you the position you're in right now, as lucky and fortunate as you are. But you got a lot of work, and you got to work your tail off to get there. Because yeah, you know what? We're talking fancy about 95 points to get into the wild card spot. Very easily, with the way it's shaping up right now, it could be pacing out to be 92, 94, somewhere in there. Not quite that 95. Yeah, you know what that does? It lowers the Oilers' points percentage needed right now from 64.8 or whatever it is down to maybe 62.9. But you still have to play way better than 6 out of every 10 hockey. So yeah, you know, that's tough. Until you start changing that equivalent formula to be about 5.5 or lower, we're not going to be talking about resting in easy as Edmonton Oilers fans and taking the playoffs as a guarantee. Friends, I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. Thanks for being aboard this evening. Really do appreciate a much more toned down edition of being able to sit here and talk with you. I am up on out of here.